All right, it's 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll have the clerk call the roll.
Supervisor Johnson.
Here.
Supervisor Supervisor Headland.
Here.
Supervisor Score.
Here.
Supervisor Steen.
Here.
Supervisor Zons.
Present.
Supervisor Gary Bjork.
Here.
Supervisor Wilsey. Supervisor Rogers.
Here.
Supervisor Witzel.
Here.
Supervisor Kinnear.
Here.
Supervisor Barrier.
Here.
Supervisor Calabrese. Supervisor Keeter.
Here.
Supervisor Vogel.
Here.
Supervisor McCullough.
Here.
Supervisor Sean Breslin.
Here.
Supervisor Vandermeulen.
Here.
Supervisor Robinson. Supervisor Morehouse.
Here.
Supervisor Hagan.
Here.
Supervisor Thomas.
Here.
Supervisor Prochnow.
Here.
Supervisor Gilbert. Supervisor Larry Bjork. Supervisor Bauer. Supervisor Leno. Supervisor Hartung.
All right, thank you. We have a quorum. Introduction of new supervisors and swearing in of the board supervisors. Andrew, you're gonna do that?
Yes, I will. From District 8, we have Supervisor, please, when I mention your name, please stand and be recognized by the those assembled. From District 8, we have new Supervisor Luke Wilsey. From District 11, we have new Supervisor Corley Witzel. From District 13, new Supervisor Monica Barrier. From District 20, new Supervisor Hillary Robinson. From District 22, new Supervisor Andrew Hagan. And from District 25, new Supervisor Tom Gilbert. All right, would all supervisors please rise? Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of County Supervisor to the best of my ability. I do so swear. Please be seated. Please also sign your oaths of office and turn those into me before you leave this evening. Oh, we also have a new supervisor that might have gotten missed. Sorry. From District 23, Mark Thomas. Sorry about that. He's from my neighborhood too. I'm probably going to be in big trouble for that one.
All right, thank you. Now we'll have recognition of contributions of past members of the Board of Supervisors.
There, oh, thank you. That's a good mic. This evening, well, this year is the biggest. I've been working for Dunn County since 1995. This is the biggest, largest number of new supervisors that I think we've ever had during my time here. So we're saying goodbye to a lot of supervisors too. People we've worked with and friends, good public servants. And tonight, I just want to, for those who are here, Have from District 2 Supervisor David Bartlett, who's been on the county board since 2000, has served as vice chair and board chair since 2018. Is Chuck Maves here?
Chuck can't make it.
Okay, Chuck Maves. Chuck has been on the board since 2012. And most recently served as the chair of the Facilities Committee. Jim Anderson from District 11. Jim, are you here? I have a certificate for you. You have to come up here one more time and stare them down. Jim is from District 11 and has been on the board since 2010.
Thank you.
From District 13 is Jody Cromery here. Jody Cromery was on the board for one term. She was elected in 2020. This is not going to work. Sheila Story, is Sheila here tonight? Sheila Story from District 18 has been on the board or was on the board from 2004. Timothy Niehoff. Tim is from District 20 and was on the board for one term from 2020 through the present or through today, yesterday. Jim Tripp, is Jim here? Jim was on the board or came onto the board in October of 2010. And so he was on the board for 12 years, representing District 23. There you are, Jim. Thank you. And Stephen Jensen, are you here this evening? Steve represented District 25 and was on the board for one term, 2020 through 2022. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll have the election of the chair. That's by secret ballot. And I assume you have ballots to hand out.
They're out.
Okay, we'll have two ballot counters. Let's have Supervisor Johnson and Supervisor Headland as they'll hand out the ballots and then they'll pick them up and tally them.
So there's a ballot on your desk. First, we'll do chair, which is in blue. If you have a nomination that you would like to submit for chair, please put that on the nominations form, and those will first be collected.
And you don't have to put your name on there, just the name of the person you're nominating.
Okay. Yeah.
What's that name?
Sixteen.
Just names, though, you need
Just,
them, right?
yep, and then we'll vote by ballot.
Oh,
Well, you should have told us that.
Nominations for
Mike Kinnear. Larry Bjork. Brian Johnson. Supervisor Steen. Supervisor Kelly McCullough. This one I'm not sure. That one there.
I would assume it's McCullough. I don't think we can count that one.
No.
Voter intent is unclear. Okay, so we have nominations from for chair for Supervisor Kinnear. Supervisor Kinnear, do you accept the nomination? Oh,
No, I thank the person, but I do not accept the nomination.
thank you, Thank you, Supervisor Kinnear. Next, we have a nomination from Supervisor Larry Bjork. Supervisor Larry Bjork, do you accept the nomination? Okay. Supervisor Larry Bjork accepts the nomination. Next, we have a nomination from Supervisor Brian Johnson. Supervisor Johnson, do you accept the nomination?
No, thank you.
Supervisor Johnson sends the nomination. Next, we have a nomination from Supervisor Gary Steen. Supervisor Steen, do you accept the nomination?
No, thank you.
Supervisor Steen declines to accept the nomination. And finally, we have a nomination for Supervisor Kelly McCullough. Supervisor McCullough, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Supervisor McCullough accepts the nomination. We have two nominees, one for Supervisor Larry Bjork and one for Supervisor Kelly McCullough. Please use the blue slip as a ballot and indicate which supervisor you would like to see serve as chair. We had
Okay.
no vote for 1 vote. We have 5 votes for Supervisor Bjork and 21 votes for Supervisor McCullough. Congratulations, Supervisor McCullough.
Kelly, come on up. Well, he's coming up. I want to mention that we're having a little bit of difficulty with microphones. Dan is trying to run them in the back until the computer comes up. It looks like it might be just coming up now, but that's why it's been a little slow. I'd also like to thank all the supervisors that I've worked with. I want to thank them for honoring me with being chair for them for the last 4 years. And for all the staff and the employees of the county, they have made it so enjoyable to come down here and work. So I want to thank everybody. Thank you.
Okay, then, thank you for all of your votes, and I will do my very best to fulfill the faith you have placed in me going forward. So the next step on our agenda is the election of the vice chair, and the process will be the same. And Vaughn, Brian, if you would collect the nomination papers, that would be fantastic.
So supervisors, please use the green nomination paper to submit a nomination for vice chair.
I've got one somewhere. It's just, there's a lot more junk on the pile today than usual.
Gary Steen, Diane Morehouse, Larry Bjork.
All right, we have nominations for vice chair for Supervisor Gary Steen. Supervisor Steen, do you accept the nomination of vice chair?
Yes.
Supervisor Steen accepts. We have a nomination for vice chair for Supervisor Diane Morehouse. Supervisor Morehouse, do you accept the nomination?
I respectfully decline.
Supervisor Morehouse declines the nomination. We have a nomination for vice chair for Supervisor Larry Bjork. Supervisor Larry Bjork, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, sir.
Supervisor Larry Bjork accepts the nomination. Supervisors, please use the green ballot and indicate whether you would like to see Gary Steen as the vice chair or Supervisor Larry Bjork as the vice chair.
Jeez.
Good for sitting in front all the time.
Yeah, really. Brian.
Thank you.
Kind of moved at this point.
Eleven votes for Larry Buick. And I have 15 for Gary Steen.
Supervisor Larry Buick received 11 votes for vice chair. Supervisor Gary Steen has received 15 votes for vice chair. Congratulations, Supervisor Steen.
Well, all right then. Now, did we miss Sean Breslin in the, in our initial introduction? So Sean, if you would stand up.
Supervisor, we have a new supervisor. There's just so many of you. Supervisor from District 18, Supervisor Sean Breslin is one of our new members.
All right. So next thing on the agenda, we have a chair, we have a vice chair. It is time for the approval of the minutes. Supervisor Morehouse moves, Supervisor Bauer seconds. Any discussion? Supervisor Rogers.
Oh, I have some discussion
Oh.
first. Can I do? Yes. On the draft of the March 16th, 2022 minutes, in the approval of minutes, it should say in the first paragraph, Supervisor Steen, not Stephen. Under the appointments section, it should say motions to approve made by Supervisor Steen, not Stephen. Then on report and resolution number 15, it should state Supervisor Steen moves to approve resolution 15, not 11. And Supervisor Vandermeulen should be spelled correctly under voted against the motion. On the March 26th, 2022 official minutes, in the first paragraph, it should say Supervisor Johnson was excused in the first paragraph, not supervisors. And in the third paragraph, under report number 17, it should be Supervisor Headland made a motion, not mad a motion. Those are the edits that I have. I'm very grateful to have my new deputy to be able to review those now at this point. Are there any other corrections that need to be made? Supervisor Rogers.
Report number 17, it says the hands showing support of the 0K for the fans should have been 40K.
Yes, it should. Thank you. Are there any other corrections to the minutes?
As your parliamentarian, may I request that you approve these one at a time instead of together?
Certainly.
Thank you.
So the first set of minutes, this would be a vote to approve them as amended, unless anyone has any further corrections they need to add. Doesn't look like it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Second set of minutes, and then I will need a new motion, a new second. Morehouse and Vandermeulen. Any Supervisor Headland? Any comments or questions? In that case, all in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Public comments. Do we have any members of the public who are wishing to speak at this time? If so, it's 3 minutes, and identify yourself and the topic in which you're speaking, which should be germane to the topics on the agenda. Do I have anyone from the public? Going once? Going twice? All right, no public comments.
I have one public comment that was submitted.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that was just for here.
Okay. We have a public comment that was submitted online from Terry Nichols of E9375 830th Avenue in Colfax, Wisconsin. Mr. Nichols writes, I am requesting that a non-binding referendum be placed on the November 22 general election. I will be attaching past documents to illustrate the reasons that I'm seeking to move the funding of the Wisconsin Technical College system to the state level. I'm approaching 20 years of stating the same case. My message has never changed, and longtime county board members will attest to the fact that I've appeared before the board numerous times in the past. In 2011, the county board approved sending my request to the Wisconsin Counties Association. I will attach the document for the board to read. I'm relying on Andrew's capable skills to assemble a packet for the board to be sent out. I have spent a lot of time preparing for this meeting, and I only ask that the board members take the time to read the documentation. I've included in the request an attachment that I received from the Wisconsin Election Commission some time back. The third attachment is communications with the chairs of both the assembly committees of the universities and colleges of the Senate Committee on University and Colleges. The divisiveness in Madison has never been higher, and I believe this non-binding referendum will send a message to our local elected officials by letting Dunn County residents voice their opinion at the voting booth. This referendum has nothing to do with partisan rancor in Madison. It's about, quote, the right and fair thing to do, end quote. My demographics, retired senior and others living on fixed incomes, is the fastest rising demographic in the state and country as well. Our demographic will not only get larger as time goes by. I've communicated with local elected officials for many months now. Some have elected not to respond to me, getting used to it. I will end this request by saying it all started when I made a statement many years ago that the pursuit of all public higher education is completely an individual choice. I want to thank Andrew for assisting me to organize my request. And note that the town of Colfax has its annual meeting the same date and time as the Dunn County Board has its meeting. Respectfully, Terry Nichols, Town of Colfax. I will forward the documentation to you later this evening.
All right, and in the
Never mind.
moment when I had my wrong glasses on, I missed number 9, presentation of petitions, memorials, and other communications. Nick, if you would be so kind.
We have 2 longtime county employees who have recently retired. They have nice plaques. I forgot to bring them down with me. They're up in the administration office. Judy Schutte, who was an employee with Dunn County or the Neighbors of Dunn County for 30 years, has just retired. And Bruce Sampson, who was our court security officer for 25 years, almost 25 years, was a reserve deputy before that, also just retired. If either of you are here, I will go up and get your certificates after the meeting's done. Thank you.
And next up would be the report of the county manager. It's you again.
We have one appointment next.
Oh,
Okay, we have one appointment that's officially on the list, and I will have unofficial committee assignments for all of you at the end of the meeting, I hope. So the Dunn County Medical Examiner, term expires February 2026, reappoint Marcy Roses. Above chair appointees, deed board confirmation. So I will need a motion. Supervisor Steen, Supervisor Morehouse. Speaking to the appointment? Nothing? Okay. Do you, Nick?
Marcy is our current medical examiner, and the medical examiner has, by ordinance, has 4-year terms. So this is a formality to reappoint her to her current position.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, the appointment passes. Yeah, I'm gonna have to switch back and forth with glasses here a little bit as we go along. So now, report of the county manager.
Thank you.
I'll get this after you give me a meeting or two.
Me too. There are no purchase orders over $40,000. And so I wanted to, I like to talk. I wanted to give you some kind of a report. I've been very busy. I'm into my 5th week now for acting county manager. And so I did want to give you some kind of an update, something that's important. We've had a lot of changes in staffing that have come up or are coming up in, some higher level positions. And I just wanted to let you know that recruitment activities have either begun or are in early stages planning. We have a human services director. That recruitment has already started for someone to succeed Chris Corpola when she retires later this year. Our human resources director, Heather Murray, will be leaving us shortly. That recruitment has also started. And then last week, the executive committee met and adopted a plan for recruiting a county manager to succeed Paul Miller, who retired from his service here in Dunn County in March. So there's been a lot going on, and I just wanted to let you know that that things are happening to get these important positions filled. That's all that I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Double checking to make sure I don't jump over anything again. The next thing is reports of departments. I am going to continue, at least for this meeting, the practice that we have had the past few. The report will have gone out in your package, but I would like the appropriate manager to come up to field any questions if I need them. Melissa? So, you may not have any questions when you get here, but
Thank you very much. My name is Melissa Gillenbach, and I am the Director of the Emergency Management and Emergency Communications. I have been with the county for 31 and a half years, and I've been the director since 2005. So if you have any questions, I hope that I have the answers.
Vaughn?
You stated in your report, obviously staffing issues that everybody is hands are tied with, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you filled a couple. Are you getting close on the other two or?
We actually just hired another dispatcher this week. She started this week. So it's about 14 to 16 week training program. So we hope that that is successful. So she'll be, kind of out on her own July or August. So slowly but surely, it's hard to train more than one at a time when the training program is so long. We try to just concentrate at hiring one at a time. So we'll hopefully do another advertisement here in the next month or so to get ready to fill the next position.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Looks like you are off the hook.
Thank you.
Next up, Sheriff. Thank you, sir. Same routine.
All I can say is, Andrew, blame it on autocorrect. That's what I do all the time. Those of you that don't know me, Sheriff Kevin Big, obviously been the sheriff now for almost 3.5 years. I've been with the county for, it'll be 33 years in July. Melissa and I started pretty much together when we were 19 years old, and you haven't gotten rid of us since. So no, I just wanted to point out and say thanks to the board for their support over the years. You've made the life of a sheriff is about as easy as can possibly be. And I appreciate the support for over the years from the outgoing board members, and I look forward to working with the new board members. So I guess just a couple things. You can take a look at my budget. You can see that $7.4 million budget this year. Last year, $7.5 million budget. And you think, wow, we're spending a lot of money with the sheriff. But to point out, there's 78% of that goes into wages, salaries, and benefits right off the top. And there's about another 20% that's all contractual. Jail medical, jail mental health services, jail food, things like that that are contracted. So really, I have an operating budget of that at about 7% of what $7.5 million gets you. Full staff of 58 full-time, numerous part-time employees from transport officers to reserve deputies. Those are few and far between nowadays. It's like a revolving door. I think I get somebody hired and an agency snaps them up full-time, because that's kind of the standard of our hiring practice. If you're going to be a reserve deputy and wear a sheriff's office uniform, you're going to meet the standards of a full-time deputy. So we hire some new good reserves that come out of school, but unfortunately we can't keep them around long because they're a good candidate and everybody's looking for good cops now. So that's been a challenge. I'm down to probably 5 or 6 regular reserve deputies. And that's, there's a few that do it as a hobby yet that got in a long time ago. You don't become a reserve deputy for a hobby anymore. It's 2 years a minimum college to get into recruit school, 17 weeks of recruit school to become a certified law enforcement officer. And if you go through that, you probably want a job full-time in law enforcement. So keeping reserves has been a challenge. So with that, glad to take any questions you might have. Supervisor Bjork.
My responsibility at the Down County Fair this year was working in the exhibits building. And I just want to give you guys kudos for the great display you had on there. And it attracted probably as many people as the whole row. I mean, people really enjoyed it. Kids were there. Fantastic public relations, and you had the dog there one day too, I thought.
Yep, our canine therapy dog.
Yeah, it was really a positive experience for a lot of people.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Mr. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Again, Sheriff Big, I just wanted to say thank you much and kudos for a great job. I have one question regarding the incident comparison
Yep.
After page 6, it was something called business check CAD. And I see no entry for 17, 18, 19. And then I see a very large entry for 2020 and then a very small one. I was just wondering, one, what is it? And then why is there the difference, such a dramatic difference from one year to another?
Yeah, are you on? Would it be the 5-year comparison?
Yeah, yeah.
The graph thing. That sounds like a business check, business building check. That was a new category when we created, or when we got our new records management software. So
Okay.
that's why there isn't any records of that before. And that was created under a new records management system. So with the inconsistency of what from year to year, the last couple of years, I guess I couldn't tell you if it wasn't categorized right, or my staff wasn't pulling those numbers. And it's, I can try and find it and see what you're referring to, but that's why there wouldn't be any records of it from 2017, 18, and 19. Our new records management system came in the end of 19. Yeah.
So what exactly is a business check?
So going around checking doors at night.
Okay.
A lot of the local police chiefs will use that category for checking churches, checking schools, things like that. They'll pull a CAD or an incident for that when they're checking businesses to just document that they were around the village or around town.
Okay.
My staff will do it in, the small towns, Ridgeland, Knapp, that don't have their own law enforcement agency.
All right. So thank you very much.
You bet.
Supervisor Vandermeulen.
In the past, the sheriff's department has invited supervisors to ride along with the deputy to get to know your department better. Is that invitation still open? And if so, how would it be arranged?
Absolutely. Give me a call or shoot me an email. Be happy to connect you whatever time of the day you want to spend. And it's a guess on whether you're going to see a lot of action or no action, because sometimes Sunday afternoons are crazy and sometimes Saturday nights you drive around and think, what the heck's going on in this county? Why we have 5 cops driving around? And then the next Saturday night, we don't have enough on. So it's an open invitation. We've kind of limited that the last couple of years due to COVID and trying to limit exposure to the deputies. So we've kind of cut down on our ride-along program, but by all means, any supervisors want to jump in, give me a call, shoot me an email. I'll set something up, and that can be from, 4 hours to 12 hours. And I think it's kind of eye-opening. Sheila Storing rode along with one of my deputies for, 8 hours, and she couldn't believe it. The stuff that we were out on and going to and running to, and the equipment when you get in the squad there hardly isn't enough room for 2 people in the front seat because of the computers and radios and all the other radars and everything else that goes along with it. So it's kind of eye-opening. And part of my goal to my report to Judiciary and Law in the future here, now that we're back in person, is put some demonstrations on, use of force demonstrations and things like that. So there's an understanding kind of from a lay perspective of what we're expected to do and how we're supposed to respond. No shoot situations is kind of a classic term. And we run our deputies through a video training, and it's you're looking at a video screen, you've got a pistol on your side or a rifle in your hands. You make entry to a house on a violent domestic, and you're encountered with somebody that jumps out from behind the bed with a rifle or a handgun or nothing in their hands, and they have to make a decision and act appropriately. So we get that training through our insurance company, actually about once a year comes around. And when that comes, I'd be happy to have you participate in that too. It's kind of eye-opening as well.
All right. So I'll note that Supervisor Calabrese has joined us by a video. So just so that he's aware. And then Supervisor Bauer, do you had another question?
Yeah, I was just curious, you said on your report that you cover state laws, county ordinances. And I know you're overworked and understaffed, but what do you do for the townships? I mean, if they make an ordinance, do you cover those or don't you cover those?
Well, Nick would probably be able to answer that better than I can, but no, we don't enforce township ordinances. We don't have the authority. to enforce township or village ordinances. If we're contracted with a village, for example, we could, there's a state law that covers that, and then we could enforce village ordinances, but we don't even enforce city ordinances because they have their own police department. Same with Boyceville, Colfax, and Elk Mound as well. So
Thank you.
you bet.
Anyone else? I think you're off the hook, Sheriff.
All right. Thank you.
Alrighty, moving on to 14, consideration of resolutions, reports and ordinances from the standing committees. Starting off with the Highway Committee ordinance amending section 71751, the Code of Ordinances regarding the vehicle registration fee. This is a first reading, so any broad debate and amendments will come at the second reading at the next meeting. But I do need a motion and a second to place this on the floor. Supervisor Johnson, Supervisor Steen. And that's pretty much it for first readings. I'm sure that there will be plenty to talk about when we come to it next time around. Next up, from the Committee on Administration, resolution proclaiming April 28th, 2022 as Workers' Memorial Day in Dunn County. Do I have a motion? Supervisor Headland, second by Supervisor Steen. Speaking to this, Supervisor Headland.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is something that we have done consistently the last few years. And it represents the fact that we know that there have been over the years numerous employees who have been fatally hurt while doing their jobs. And so this is a chance for us to say thank you to those workers and just remind everyone to be safe and be aware when you're out there. Certainly you would not want to be the next person to hurt one of our county employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or further speaking? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Also from the Committee on Administration, resolution amending employee handbook, uniforms, tools and safety equipment policy. I need a motion in a second. Supervisor Breslin, Supervisor Lino, speaking to the motion, Supervisor Headland.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an update to the handbook. Our handbook spells out reimbursement for employees who have to work in situations such as mechanic and welders is shown here. Highway department employees who obviously we have decided that we needed a set regulation for this. And so over the years, we've came up with uniforms, so to speak, for these employees and a number, change of those each day, along with a amount of money specifically to reimburse them for things like safety glasses, especially if they wear prescription glasses, and then or goggles to keep their eyes safe. Along with that, the sheriff's deputies and captains and so forth have also an allowance approved to them to replace boots, as obviously, no matter what the weather, if they have to make an accident stop or a traffic stop, or again, go check an open door, they're wading through whatever is beneath their feet. And so they have the same type of reimbursement. And so it's updating the amounts and reinstating that in the handbook. Part of this oftentimes too gets changed because our powers of arrest staff do have a union contract, and sometimes an item like this is changed in the contract, and then we have to change it in the handbook.
Great, thank you.
There's another one regarding
That's next.
holidays.
That'll be the next one, so
Yeah.
let's
You want to
get,
go in this one first?
yeah, get this one And I believe our county manager has a,
What? Yeah, I'm speaking as the corporation counsel here now, but a typographical error was identified to me on the second page of this resolution following the lowercase b. It should say employees in their first year. And it just says in their first year, I think. But so that correction will be included in the amendment
great, thank
of
you,
the
Nick.
handbook. Yep.
Any further speaking to the resolution? Seeing none, all in favor, aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Motion passes. On to the next committee administration, resolution amending employee handbook regarding floating holidays for field service sergeants in the sheriff's office. And I will need a motion in a second. Supervisor Headland, Supervisor Leno. I got to remember to keep a closer eye on this side of the room. Speaking to the resolution, Supervisor Headland.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chair. It was brought up months ago, actually by our HR department to the Committee on Administration that in recruiting employees, we oftentimes do a comparison of other counties. And one of the things that came up is that we were offering less paid holidays than basically anyone in the area. And so to basically try to keep our employees happy and not decide there's is greener on the other side of the fence, it was the right thing to do to add another paid holiday. And we chose at that point to be the Martin Luther King holiday. However, then again, that got added to the employees with powers of arrest and into their contract. And then now we also have to add in, once that is the correctional officers, field service people, and so forth. So that is also, again, part of the handbook.
Great, thank you. Any further speaking to the resolution? Seeing none, all in favor?
All right.
All opposed? Motion passes. On to the executive committee. Resolution approving FY 2022 budget adjustment for the Child Support Agency. Is this Beata or who's? Oh yeah, we'll need a motion first. Supervisor Morehouse, Supervisor Robinson. Now, speaking to the motion. Do you want to handle this one then, Nick, or?
I'll try.
I don't see.
Josie, you're on the Zoom conference. Would you want to talk about the budget adjustment resolution? It'll work now. Josie, you're on the Zoom conference.
I am.
Would you like to just, she can't hear me unless my mic is on. Would you like to give some information to the county board about that resolution?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I had already reported to my standing committee in February. I thought the 2021 budget year had come to a close and all my invoices and revenues were in. And then all of a sudden in early March, I received an additional deposit from a 2018-2019 incentive payment from the state for just under $1,000 that I wasn't anticipating. So instead of putting that back into 2021 budget, I am asking for it to for a budget increase in 2022 to allow me to purchase a few new office chairs that are in significant disrepair.
Great, thank you. Does this require a roll call vote because it's budgetary?
Yes, it'll be a 2/3 vote and by roll call.
All right. Is there any further speaking to the motion? Getting there.
It would be a motion to approve the fiscal year 2022 budget adjustment for the Child Support Agency. Motion made by Supervisor Morehouse, seconded by Supervisor Robinson. Any questions? Dan? It's like charades. I don't know what you're pointing at.
Don?
Oh, Don has his mic.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Dan.
All right, we will do a roll call vote. Supervisor Bauer. Supervisor Bauer votes yes. Supervisor Barrier. Supervisor Barrier votes yes. Supervisor Gary Bjork. Supervisor Gary Bjork votes yes. Supervisor Larry Bjork. Supervisor Larry Bjork votes yes. Supervisor Sean Breslin.
Yes.
Supervisor Sean Breslin votes yes. Supervisor Calabrese.
Yes.
Supervisor Calabrese votes yes. Supervisor Gilbert. Supervisor Gilbert votes yes. Supervisor Hagan. Supervisor Hagan votes yes. Supervisor Hartung. Supervisor Hartung votes yes. Supervisor Headland.
Yes.
Supervisor Headland votes yes. Supervisor Johnson.
Yes.
Supervisor Johnson votes yes. Supervisor Kinnear. Supervisor Kinnear votes yes. Supervisor Keeter. Supervisor Keeter votes yes. Supervisor Leno. Supervisor Leno votes yes. Supervisor Morehouse. Supervisor Morehouse votes yes. Supervisor Prochnow. Supervisor Prochnow votes yes. Supervisor Robinson. Supervisor Robinson votes yes. Supervisor Rogers. Supervisor Rogers votes yes. Supervisor Score. Supervisor Score votes yes. Supervisor Steen. Supervisor Steen votes yes. Supervisor Thomas. Supervisor Thomas votes yes. Supervisor Vandermeulen. Supervisor Vandermeulen votes yes. Supervisor Vogel. Supervisor Vogel votes yes. Supervisor Wilsey. Supervisor Wilsey votes yes. Supervisor Witzel. Supervisor Witzel votes yes. Supervisor Zons. Supervisor Zons votes yes. Chair McCullough.
Yes.
Chair McCullough votes yes. That passes.
All right. So I will note for future reference that usually with budget adjustments like this, we try to put them all in one bill. Things have been a little frantic around here this week, so we're going to be doing these individually. Hopefully next time they will be bent together. So the next resolution approving FY 2022 budget adjustment for the Department of Human Services. Supervisor Morehouse moves, Supervisor Zahn seconds. Speaking to the resolution. Supervisor Morehouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oops. Executive Director Chris Corpola is here, but I will speak to this long list. These are all grants, some of which were received after the budget was passed in November. And also contracts were finally received for grants that come in often very, very slowly. Some grants were less than we budgeted. Some grants were more than we budgeted, and that is taken care of in this budget adjustment.
I'll add for the record that we do these pretty regularly as the bookkeeping goes up and down with incoming funds and outgoing funds. Any further speaking to the motion? Seeing none, again, a roll call vote. Oh, sorry.
Is the date on this the 28th? Is there a reason for that, or is that just not taking effect today?
I will let Corporation Counsel field that one, I think.
That's a typo. That's a typographical error. That will be corrected to reflect today's.
Thank you, Supervisor Bauer. Anyone else? I got to get my wait time a little bit longer. All right.
All right,
Seeing no
so
further comment. Over to you.
motion on the floor is a resolution approving fiscal year 2022 budget adjustments for the Department of Human Services. Supervisor Barrier.
Yes.
Supervisor Barrier votes yes. Supervisor Gary Bjork. Supervisor Gary Bjork votes yes. Supervisor Larry Bjork. Supervisor Larry Bjork votes yes. Supervisor Sean Breslin. Supervisor Sean Breslin votes yes. Supervisor Calabrese.
Yes.
Supervisor Calabrese votes yes. Supervisor Gilbert. Supervisor Gilbert votes yes. Supervisor Hagan. Supervisor Hagan votes yes. Supervisor Hartung. Supervisor Hartung votes yes. Supervisor Headland. Supervisor Headland votes yes. Supervisor Johnson. Supervisor Johnson votes yes. Supervisor Kinnear. Supervisor Kinnear votes yes. Supervisor Keeter. Supervisor Keeter votes yes. Supervisor Leno. Supervisor Leno votes yes. Supervisor Morehouse. Supervisor Morehouse votes yes. Supervisor Prochnow. Supervisor Prochnow votes yes. Supervisor Robinson. Supervisor Robinson votes yes. Supervisor Rogers. Supervisor Rogers votes yes. Supervisor Score. Supervisor Score votes yes. Supervisor Steen. Supervisor Steen votes yes. Supervisor Thomas. Supervisor Thomas votes yes. Supervisor Vandermeulen. Supervisor Vandermeulen votes yes. Supervisor Vogel. Supervisor Vogel votes yes. Supervisor Wilsey. Supervisor Wilsey votes yes. Supervisor Witzel. Supervisor Witzel votes yes. Supervisor Zons. Supervisor Zons votes yes. Supervisor Bauer. Supervisor Bauer votes yes. Chair McCullough.
Yes,
Chair McCullough votes yes.
motion passes. All right, next one of these. Resolution approving FY 2022 budget adjustment for the Health Department. Supervisor Morehouse moves, Supervisor Steen seconds. Speaking to the resolution, Supervisor Morehouse?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, these are grants. The Department of Health received $6,000 as a match to the farmer's market grant. That's a pass through to West Cap. And a state grant for community disease and prevention for $4,500 was received after the budget was approved. Katie Gallagher is here if there are additional questions or more specific questions.
Any further speaking to the resolution? And yet another roll call vote.
I'm sorry.
All right, so the motion on the floor is the resolution approving the fiscal year 2022 budget adjustment for the Health Department. Supervisor Gary Bjork. Supervisor Gary Bjork votes yes. Supervisor Larry Bjork. Supervisor Larry Bjork votes yes. Supervisor Sean Breslin. Supervisor Sean Breslin votes yes. Supervisor Calabrese.
Yes.
Supervisor Calabrese votes yes. Supervisor Gilbert. Supervisor Gilbert votes yes. Supervisor Hagan. Supervisor Hagan votes yes. Supervisor Hartung. Supervisor Hartung votes yes. Supervisor Headland. Supervisor Headland votes yes. Supervisor Johnson. Supervisor Johnson votes yes. Supervisor Kinnear. Supervisor Kinnear votes yes. Supervisor Keeter. Supervisor Keeter votes yes. Supervisor Leno. Supervisor Leno votes yes. Supervisor Morehouse. Supervisor Morehouse votes yes. Supervisor Prochnow. Supervisor Prochnow votes yes. Supervisor Robinson. Supervisor Robinson votes yes. Supervisor Rogers. Supervisor Rogers votes yes. Supervisor Score. Supervisor Score votes yes. Supervisor Steen. Supervisor Steen votes yes. Supervisor Thomas. Or Thomas votes yes. Supervisor Vandermeulen. Supervisor Vandermeulen votes yes. Supervisor Vogel. Supervisor Vogel votes yes. Supervisor Wilsey. Supervisor Wilsey votes yes. Supervisor Witzel. Supervisor Witzel votes yes. Supervisor Zons. Supervisor Zons votes yes. Supervisor Bauer. Supervisor Bauer votes yes. Supervisor Barrier. Supervisor Barrier votes yes. Chair McCullough.
Yes,
Chair McCullough votes yes.
motion passes. Item 4, ordinance amending chapter 2 regarding legislative committee duties of vice chair. And this is a first reading as well. So I will need a motion in a second, and then Supervisor Headland, Supervisor Robinson. The bulk of this will be next time, although if the board would indulge me, we have Supervisor Tripp, whose brainchild, former Supervisor Tripp, whose brainchild this is. Jim, would you be interested in laying this out for us?
Should we make a motion to suspend the rules?
To what?
Without objection?
No, he's just being called on to provide information.
Providing information without objection. I
Okay.
mean, if someone objects, we'll have to send him back.
No, come back.
Don't be a quitter.
Wouldn't be the first time. Thank you for the opportunity. Over the past several years, Dunn County has developed a pretty robust legislative program, and I think this represents the next logical step in the process. In my work with the Wisconsin Counties Association, one of the things I noticed was that a number of counties give specific duties to their vice chairs. And in Dunn County, we didn't have any specific duty. I served in that office couple of years ago, and there really wasn't much formally that I was required to do. So it was kind of logical to me that if we would assign the vice chair the responsibility to chair the legislative committee, that would bring some focus and an ability to kind of coordinate efforts on our legislative program and take it to the next level. One of the things that brought this to the forefront was a couple of years ago, we were making some efforts to go to Madison to do some lobbying. And there were at least 2 different agencies doing the same thing at the same time with the same legislators without knowing it. And I commend those other folks in the departments for their initiative, but the fact is that coordination in this effort is, I think, going to go a long way towards strengthening our efforts in terms of getting the legislature on board with what counties need to be able to provide the services to our citizens. So that's it.
Thank you, Jim. And I know that we've had very good attendance from our legislators, and I would really like to see this program continue. But since it's first reading, that would be it. I did get a motion in a second on that, did I? Yes, great. All right, Executive Committee, point 5, ordinance amending chapter 2 regarding scheduling of board meetings by executive committee. And this is the second reading. Nick, since this was
My initiative. Yes, this is lately, the County Board of Supervisors here has, because of the scheduling of our meetings and the budget process, the November meeting is kind of set by statute. And then there are time requirements for publishing notice of a public hearing for the budget and publishing the budget. And oftentimes there is not enough time between our October meeting and our November meeting to meet those deadlines. And so I think 2 out of the last 3 years, we've had to adjust the time of the October meeting. And right now, as the board rules are written, that requires a majority of supervisors to sign a petition requesting that the meeting date be changed. It's kind of a foregone conclusion and quite necessary to do it. And so that the authority to just set that meeting by the executive committee is included in this ordinance amendment. So we won't have to circulate a petition to have everyone sign it. And then it also gives the executive committee authority to just set a meeting date in February for our legislative meeting where we invite our legislative representatives of Dunn County constituents to come to a meeting and hear what we have to say to them and then hear them respond. And it also gives the executive committee authority to set a budget or a capital improvements workshop meeting in March. Again, otherwise these would be special meetings and would require a petition to be circulated. And it just eliminates the need for that.
Thank you, Nick. Do I have any further speaking to the resolution? Supervisor Rogers.
Well, I guess my question would be, we've been through this process for a few years and it seems to work fine sending it out in an email. Why is it necessary to change this?
Nick, do you want to?
I'm not sure that it's necessary. I think it's just convenient and there honestly have been times where we weren't sure if we were going to be able to have enough signatures to request the meeting to be called or be changed. So it gives a little greater level of certainty that it'll be scheduled.
And I believe this is really a matter of streamlining 2 specific meetings. In general, special meetings would still follow the normal rule.
Yes.
This is just for the 2 that we are keep having to run a special meeting on these 2 particular subjects and occasions. Any other questions? All right, then. Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, on to D, Planning Resources and Development Committee. First, a resolution authorizing participation in DNR targeted management and notice of intent discharge grant programs. Supervisor Kinnear makes the motion. Supervisor Gary Bjork seconds. Speaking to the motion, Mike?
Okay, thank you. We would like to get a grant to help a farmer, and this is the process we have to go through. We have to be authorized by the county board in order to apply for that grant.
Thank you. Pretty straightforward. If there are any deeper questions? Yes, Supervisor Morehouse.
Red on
It
me.
needs to be red.
Red is right.
Red means go.
That. With your permission, Chase Cummings is here and could certainly speak to both of these resolutions.
Without objection? Yeah, Chase, come on up.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chase Cummings. I'm the county conservationist with the Land and Water Conservation Division, which is a division of the Environmental Services Department. Thank you, Supervisor Kinnear, for the introduction explanation of the first resolution. He nailed it. Basically, we work with landowners in the county to ensure compliance or assist them in compliance with ag performance standards, which looks at conservation of our land and water resources. And in doing so, in some cases, we need to apply for cost share funds to assist those landowners. This resolution here would authorize us in the Land and Water Conservation Division to apply for a notice of discharge grant and potentially target a runoff management grant within Dunn County to assist a producer. If there's any other questions specifically related to the first resolution, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, I don't see any. So all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, resolution authorizing an application for notice of intent discharge grant from DNR. I will need a motion in a second. Morehouse and Robinson. And Chase, take it away.
Okay, thank you. The second resolution here is a resolution particularly for a particular farm that we have been working with for several years. Part of our what we're tasked to do here in Dunn County is to assist landowners in, like I mentioned earlier, compliance with ag performance standards, which are potentially state code or statute, as well as county ordinance. We've been working with a landowner in the township of Wilson for several years to address a compromised liner of a manure storage structure, which potentially has negative impact to groundwater. That structure is also overtopped, discharging liquid manure to surface water, ultimately getting into the Red Cedar River. This particular resolution authorizes us to apply for a specific grant for that farm. And again, this is a grant application. If we are selected and are awarded the grant, we would need to come back to this county board for an amendment to our budget to authorize the expense of those funds. Those being grant funds, so any expense incurred by the county in assistance of the landowner would be reimbursed 100% by the grant. If not awarded the grant, then we will go to Plan B to assist the landowner in the needs that they have for their farm.
Thank you, Chase. Supervisor Lee now.
Yeah, I just had one quick question here. Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. Just wondering, what type of cost sharing grant is this? 50/50, 60/40? What are we talking?
Yeah, typically these cost share funds that we are required to offer in certain situations like this are at a 70% cost share rate. But I would, I guess, remind everyone that sometimes our cost share and grant eligibility and grant options will not achieve the 70%. So the amount of funds in this pool from the state of Wisconsin likely are not enough, or we wouldn't be awarded enough to get to 70%. This particular landowner is also applying for a hardship clause, so that makes them eligible to a 90% cost share. So certainly if we can't get enough funds to meet 70%, we won't for the 90. With that said, we also leverage these funds and other services and other funds that are supported through match dollars through federal government, so EQIP or NRCS funding, to get enough funding to assist the landowner.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Supervisor Larry Bjork.
Question I had, you might have mentioned it where before, is this funds coming from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, or where is the money coming from, the grant, and how much money are we talking about?
Certainly, thank you. This fund source is through the Department of Natural Resources through their Notice of Discharge program. Notice of Discharge program is a separate pool of funds through the state budget that allows funds to support the implementation of conservation practices, so such as this. In this particular case, we're looking at upwards of $1 million for the entire project. So the funds that are available at the state through the Notice of Discharge program are usually around $1 million. So we are going to be applying for this grant. Sometimes it's likely a competitive grant with other counties or other municipalities applying for these types of funds. So we certainly won't be getting $1 million for this particular project, which is why we need to leverage other sources for funds.
One more question. Would you say that without these grant applications being approved and the cost sharing, that this particular business would probably not be able to survive?
So the way the administrative code works in the state of Wisconsin, as well as our county ordinance, in order to implement conservation ag performance standards, so making sure that farms are not overtopping manure, not discharging surface water, a number of other parameters. If they are existing farm as of 2002, they're required to receive a bona fide offer of cost share. And in order to do that, that cost share is typically at a 70% rate. So without these grant programs, we're not able to basically pool the funds enough to provide that offer of cost share. And it is a possibility that the farm may go out of business due to this, or they will continue to operate in a fashion that potentially is discharging pollution to surface water or and/or groundwater.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chase. And that would take us to next meeting, which will be Wednesday, May 18th, 2022 at 7:00 p.m. And now down to announcements. I have a preliminary set of committee appointments for you all. And I will note that the vast bulk of the work that this body does is done in committee. So, dig in, learn, help out the citizens of Dunn County. That's it for me. Do I have any other announcements?
Yes. Yes, Supervisor Zons has brought his camera and a tripod with, and we would like to try to get a group photograph of the county board this evening. So please stick around. Take a cookie as you leave.
Where do you want it done, Nick? Where do you want to?
We hadn't really worked that out yet. I think up front here, maybe. Anybody who's really tall could come and stand right up against the dais, and then maybe we'll have to move some chairs. I don't know.
All right, so stick around for that.
Yes. And I think that's all of the announcements, but.
If you have any per diem sheets, you can feel free to turn them in to me. If you need per diem sheets, they're at the table as you came in by the door.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn? Supervisor Steen, Supervisor Bauer, all in favor? Any opposed? We are done. Thank you all.